The man just casually picked up a piece of wood, but in the blink of an eye, the wooden stick transformed into a legendary divine sword right in his hands. He gently caressed the blade, and its fierce energy sent enemies flying through the air. Then he untied his companion's ropes and handed the divine sword to the sorcerer, hoping the man would keep his word and open a portal to send him back to the real world. But what he didn't expect was that after carefully examining the divine sword, the sorcerer turned around and presented it to the king. It turned out his real target from the very beginning wasn't this divine sword at all, but the immortal gem that the king possessed. However, what caught him off guard was that the king had given him a fake gem. The real immortal gem was still in the queen's hands. Just then, a frog nearby suddenly revealed its human form and lunged at the king. Ivan seized the moment to fight back, quickly grabbing the magic sword from the ground. The tide of battle instantly turned, with victory now completely in Ivan's grasp. But Ivan didn't make any further moves. Instead, he used the divine sword to draw a circle in the air, successfully opening a space-time portal. Then, under his companion's shocked gaze, he dropped the divine sword and jumped through without hesitation. Though he successfully returned to the real world, the guilt of abandoning his companion constantly tormented his soul. He hesitated for a long time before finally deciding to face his inner feelings. He wanted to use the same method as before to return to the magical world again, but not only did he fail, he was also arrested by police for acting strangely. However, he ended up seeing the same sorcerer he'd first met in prison. But to get the sorcerer to open the portal, he had to get the magic wand back from the police. Soon Ivan used his smooth talking to convince the guard to return the wand. Time was running short, so the old man waved his wand to open the space-time portal and transported Ivan to the magical world. Meanwhile, his companion had already been captured and taken to the royal palace, awaiting final judgment. The king and queen arrived in full ceremonial dress. Legend had it that if you combined the immortal gem with the divine sword when the sun and moon aligned, you could gain the power of eternal life. Just then, Ivan suddenly pulled out a gun. A single gunshot rang out, and the king collapsed to the ground with a look of unwillingness on his face. Ivan thought he had killed the king, but when he threatened the queen to release his companion, she just smiled. It turned out the king's ritual was already complete. He had achieved an immortal body. To weaken his opponent's fighting power, Ivan took a risk and used reverse psychology to get the king to put down his divine sword and have a man-to-man duel with him. But even with the king wielding an ordinary sword, Ivan was still no match and was soon beaten into a humiliating retreat. Seeing himself gaining the upper hand, the king became increasingly arrogant. Meanwhile, the sorcerer used the dragon's flames to burn through his ropes and picked up the immortal gem from the ground. The king wasn't too worried when he saw this, because once the immortal gem was destroyed, both he and the sorcerer would be reduced to ashes in an instant. He simply didn't believe the sorcerer would make such a choice. Just as he was about to continue dealing with Ivan, the sorcerer threw the immortal gem into the air and completely shattered it with one strike of his sword. As the immortal gem disappeared, the king also turned to dust at that very moment.